Benchmark 4a. Let's factor this. Whenever you have a binomial, it's most likely a difference of squares. What we do for difference of squares is we look to see, is this something squared? Yes. That's 2x, that's 9x squared. This is 5 squared. This is a difference of squares. That's the name, difference of squares. A difference is minus, and those are both square values. Whenever it's a difference of squares, your answer is simply these two pieces but one of them has a minus and the other one has a plus. So you take those two pieces, some people call that A, some people call that B, AB. You just rewrite those two pieces, one with the minus, one with the plus. It's factored. It's actually one of the easiest and most common pieces, commonly missed though too. Number 2. Let's factor this. The first step is to look for a GCF. Actually, guys, I forgot to tell you that on this one. Make sure you look for a GCF. There isn't one? Okay. Look here. Is there a greatest common factor? No. 5 and 6 don't have something in common. Or that's prime, so there's nothing in common. So when there's nothing in common and there's a number in front, you take the front number, you multiply it by the back number. That gives you negative 30. Again, you multiply these two numbers together, and the 13 goes to the bottom. The middle guy drops to the bottom. Okay. So I multiplied those, got negative 30. 13 goes to the bottom. What two numbers multiply to get 30? Remember, the top is multiply, the bottom is add. What two numbers multiply to get negative 30 and add to get 13?
15 and negative 2.
It would be 15 and negative 2. Now, some ways to help you with these boxes, they're called diamonds, these X's. If the multiply piece is a negative, do you understand one of these has to be negative? If this is positive, do you understand both of these are either positive or both of them are negative? Things to think about before you start. Anywho, next, you are going to factor it. So you take the 15, so it's x, that's a positive 15. And this one, that is a x and a minus 2. Some people are going to stop right there, and they're wrong. Because this 5 right here, you have to take that 5, you multiplied it in, you now need to divide it back out. And lots of people forget to divide it back out. 15 over 5, that one actually reduces to 3. This one does not reduce, so you take it and you bring it up. Some people call it bottoms up. Now, so the 5 goes up. That is factored. Again, do not forget to divide everything by the 5. Number 3. Is there a GCF? Yes, there is. What goes into 6 and 24? 6. 6 is your greatest common factor. GCF. Greatest common factor. Now, what's left, when you pull these 6 out, 6 times what gives you 6x squared? X squared. 6 times what gives you negative 24? Again, 6 times x squared gives you 6x squared. 6 times negative 4, 6 times negative 4 gives you negative 24. Now, is that completely factored? No, sometimes it will be. But we can now still factor this. That is a difference of squares. That is x squared minus 2 squared. So, don't forget the 6. It's commonly forgotten. When I factor x squared minus 4, I have a difference of squares. that is going to be x and a 2. And since this is a difference of squares, you have 1 plus, and the other one's x minus 2. In difference of squares, you take each of these pieces, one with a plus, one with a minus. Do not forget the 6 in front. Very common mistake is to forget the GCF. The last problem is a lot like number 2. There's no GCF, but there's actually a shortcut. You don't have to do like number 2 for the last one. You should notice this is a perfect square trinomial. That is 5x squared, and that is 3 squared, with the negative 30x right here. Now, to make sure it's actually a perfect square trinomial, what you do is you take these two values, you double them, you multiply 5x and 3, and then you double it. You multiply the 5x times the 3 and double it. That gives you 30x. Does that match the middle number? Yes, it's just negative, but don't worry about that for now. If when you multiply this times this and double it, if it matches the middle, it is called a perfect square trinomial. Okay? It's a perfect square trinomial. And it's a very simple factor. All you do is you take the 5x, you take the 3, and since that's a minus, you put a minus right there. That is your factor form. 5x minus 3 squared means 5x minus 3, 5x minus 3. Again, you could have done this method, but you're going to waste a whole bunch of time and deal with bigger numbers sometimes. Again, we always notice a perfect square trinomial when we see two squareds, and then you check by multiplying the 2 and doubling it to see if it matches the middle. That is a perfect square trinomial. Squares, tri means 3, trinomial. This is a difference of squares. This one and this one are very similar.